Please welcome Cleveland Clinic CEO and President, Dr. Toby Cosgrove.
Well, welcome to this very special program. We're delighted to have you all here today. 2016 has been one of the most remarkable years in the Cleveland Clinic's history. The Cleveland Cavaliers' outstanding season was capped by winning the national championship, electrifying our city as few other events have. Dan Gilbert is the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Adam Silver is the commissioner of the NBA. And because of the importance of the NBA and professional sports to the future of this region, I invited them to the Cleveland Clinic to share their thoughts on the season to come and the future of the NBA and professional sports. I'd like to introduce them and our moderator, Fred McLeod. Dan Gilbert is a dynamic figure in the world of business, finance, and sports. He is chairman and founder of Rock Ventures and Quicken Loans. In 2005, he became the majority owner of the NBA Cleveland Cavaliers. He is the operator of the Cleveland Quicken Loans Arena and the owner of the NBA D-League Canton Charge, the American Hockey League's Cleveland Monsters, and the AFL's Cleveland Gladiators. Dan has been an outstanding citizen of our region, committing millions of dollars to urban core of Cleveland and his hometown Detroit, and creating thousands of new jobs. His investment in Cleveland currently employ 4,500 people. Dan is a remarkable philanthropist who serves on the board of Children's Tumor Foundation, the Children's Hospital Foundation, and the Cleveland Clinic. He and his wife Jennifer joined Bill Gates and Warren Buffett's giving pledge, committing to half of their personal wealth to philanthropy. Adam Silver is commissioner of the National Basketball Association. He is the 5th chief executive of the NBA in NBA history. As commissioner, he sets the agenda for the NBA and oversees its legal, financial, and administrative activities. Before being named commissioner in 2014, Adam served as NBA deputy commissioner and COO for 8 years. Among his achievements in that position were successful negotiations with the Players Association, developed with the WNBA, and creating the NBA China. Adam graduated from Duke University and the University of Chicago Law School. Every basketball used in NBA games is stamped with his signature. Fred McLeod is a legend in the world of sports announcing. He has been doing play-by-play for NBA games for 33 years, 10 of them as the voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers on Fox Sports, Ohio. He is the Cavaliers' executive producer for multimedia, including Cavs.com and Twitter and Facebook. He's also the year-round host of Fox Sports' weekly Access Cavaliers program. Fred was born in Strongsville, Ohio. Over the course of his career, he's done play-by-plays for the Indians, Detroit Tigers, and Detroit Lions, and for 22 years, the Detroit Pistons. To recap some of the exciting things that happened, I'd like to show you this video of the last several days of last year's NBA season.
That will do it as the Warriors have taken a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals by virtue of a Game 4 win. Your score, Warriors 108, Cavaliers 97.
Success in life comes when you simply refuse to give up. On a mission so strong that obstacles like failure and loss only act as motivation. I mean, like, no one has the power to shatter your dreams unless you give something's telling me to stop. I never do that in the name of love until I've given it my all and it just ain't enough. See, even if it's getting realer than they say it was, straighten up. Who's afraid of what? Player, get involved. No.
Out comes Iguodala, 2-on-1 to find Curry.
Here comes Curry back to Iguodala. Block! Oh my goodness, LeBron James with a chase down of his career!
But I won't be stopped. I go from tragedy to majesty. The victory has been woven into my tapestry. My adversaries not cut from the same flag as me. That's why the champion's gonna be who it has to be.
Irving's picked up by Steph Curry, 6 to shoot. He's at the right point.
Dancing with a tough three. Got it!
Hey!
on. This is where I become an American icon.
Curry now bothered by Love. Curry trying to get himself loose. Love's right on top of him. Stay there, Kevin. The ball's worked to Draymond Green. He almost lost it out of bounds. Back to Curry.
Stepping back. Fires on the run. No! Rebound to LeBron James!
This one is over.
It's over! It's over! The 52-year drought is over! It's over!
Believe it, Cleveland. Savor it. Soak it in. The Cavaliers are NBA champions, and the impossible dream has come true.
Champions, and real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions, and real champions prove that they're champions.
I'm gonna prove that I'm the champion. And if it's something I can't do, then it can't be done. And I ain't saying I don't lose, I'm saying I'm the only one. But if it's either I or you, the best believe it's only gonna be one. A true champion.
If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions, and real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions, and real champions prove that they're champions.
Please welcome Dan, Adam, and Fred.
Thank you, Dr. Cosgrove. That's called binge watching. I've watched that. I know exactly what's going to happen every time, and I either start sobbing. A week ago, my wife says, why are you crying? And I had my earbuds in. I'm watching the game again. So it's just,
Fred,
I grew up here, and so it's...
I'm afraid, I don't watch it because I'm afraid Kyrie's going to miss next time I watch it. Just so.
Like LeBron said at the rally, he had a dream the night before Game 7, and the dream was that they had fallen behind again and were going to lose the series. So that's what it normally takes place in Cleveland, but no longer. But it's a pleasure to be here today. These are the two legends, not me, and maybe on the broadcasting side. What Adam has done with the NBA is, I am so proud to be a part of this family. It's the most exciting time in the NBA, and what Dan has done with the franchise, it's really incredible. So, gentlemen, thanks.
Thank you.
For what you do.
Be here.
Let's start off with Game 7. Memories, Adam. You're used to it, but you knew what it meant to the city of Cleveland and what it meant to the organization. But take me back to Game 7. Your thoughts?
You know, as the commissioner, you end up being mainly focused on the officiating in those games, and there had been some...
It was unreal. It was great.
Right, well, and by the way, Fred, you weren't paying attention. We were backstage. Fred, you have to repeat what you said before.
It was maybe the best officiated Game 7 I've ever seen. No, I mean, near perfection. I mean, these guys, Monty McCutcheon in the group.
No, it was a great crew. So, you know, from a league standpoint, I mean, one, you're watching a great basketball game and obviously a Game 7, but in addition, you're focused on hoping that it's decided on the court, that there aren't controversial calls, that they handle everything well. And at the same time, you know, we recognize at the league that if the Cavs did manage to come back, and it felt that momentum was on their side, that it would be the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 deficit to win the championship. And so I think that there was history in the making, and I think there was, you know, certainly in the league, the story of LeBron coming back to Northeast Ohio. I think everybody understood the emotion behind that, and I think that is so. I think then at some point in the game, the sort of the fan in you takes over, and I'm just sitting in the stands watching like everybody else. So I mean, the fact that it was a nail biter, the fact that it was, I guess, a 4-point game at the end, and it was so close, and you know, I think my reaction again as both the commissioner and the fan was, this is incredible basketball. You know, two really deserving teams, and I will say, you know, two great organizations, great ownership, the Warriors as well. Dan and his partners, great GMs, great coaching in both teams. So I think from a league,
there's a great player or two in there too.
No, I said it starts with a great player, and I think from the league standpoint, this is just what you want. You know, you want it to come down to the two best teams playing in a Game 7, you know, right down to the buzzer.
You know, Dan and I have had this conversation before, not believing in curse, that you got to break through. And once you did, Dan, what were the emotions on the floor as you saw the confetti and you're hugging players and hugging your partners?
What's kind of crazy about it is when you're in an opposing arena, obviously it's the first time I've ever been through any experience anywhere near this, right? But you're incredibly emotional and it's surreal. But you're like 40 people who are celebrating, and the rest of the place is dead silent. So first you sort of like look up what's going. Shouldn't there be more noise going on here? But and you're looking around, and all those Californians in yellow. I mean, I had no empathy or sympathy for them. But, so it was. But Monty, I will tell you that when we saw we had Monty McCutcheon as the ref in Game 7, I mean we didn't really have talked about this in a while, but he's the gold standard. He is the best ref in the league by far. It's not even close. And so when we knew at least we knew there, like you said, there wasn't going to be any kind of dispute.
People don't realize how difficult it is. I see Mr. Gunn over there in the front row, and those teams of Lenny Wilkins in the early mid-'90s were fantastic, but they couldn't quite get over the hump because of Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls. So I know, Dan, you relish this opportunity, and Adam, you can speak from NBA history how difficult it is to win an NBA championship.
Well, sure. I mean, by the way, I didn't realize Gordon Gunn was here. So, Gordon, I just want to say hello.
Yeah, hello, Gordon.
Lily,
how you doing?
Gordon. I started.
We got the seats all straightened out for you. Everything's good. Make sure. Okay.
I started in the NBA in 1992, so Gordon was one of my bosses for many years and was the longtime chairman of the board of the NBA for many years. And so I think much of the success of where the NBA is today is due to Gordon. So thank you very much for your service to the league as well, Gordon. And I'll just say, it's winning is so incredibly difficult. And I'll say about our owners, because when we just had a meeting last week in New York with the 30 team owners, and all of them, almost by net definition, are incredibly successful. And among the owners in the room, in all of their industries, even let's say we have a lot of owners now who come from the finance industry or private equity industry, it's not a zero-sum game in that industry. Blackstone and Apollo can both have great years. And Quicken Loans can have a great year along with all its other competitors. On the other hand, in sports, it's truly zero-sum. And roughly half the teams every year aren't going to make the playoffs, and obviously only one team is going to win the championship. And what I've said to many of our owners is that if you assume that you have 30 well-managed franchises and all have about the same amount of luck, by definition, statistically, you're only going to win 1 out of every 30 years. Right. And so that's how difficult it is to win in sports. And I think it's probably in some ways, and Dan can speak to this, the most enjoyable thing that a lot of our owners do, but also one of the most frustrating things they do, because also they have less control than they typically have in many of their businesses.
What kind of impact, Dan, do you think this has made on our city?
Well, when we got here 11 years ago, first of all, before I forget about Gordon Gunn, I have to say one thing. And I don't know, Gordon, if you remember this, but at the news conference 11 years ago when we had purchased majority control of the team, you gave me your tie. Somehow I got your tie. and I said to you, if you recall, I said, when we raise our first banner, I'm going to put that tie on the banner. And so somehow we're going to have to figure that out tonight.
Nice.
Because I have the tie still. So, Fred, I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
Just the impact on the city of Cleveland, obviously.
So when we got here 11 years ago, there were, not everybody, but this town, it's really interesting when you get to parachute in and you have no real sort of history or bias one way or the other in a city. And there were I don't know, maybe 20% of the people we would sort of bump into and talk to in Cleveland were, what are you guys doing here? And I go, what do you mean? What are you doing? I go, why would you come to Cleveland? You're not going to win anything here. We don't win, literally from people who are from Cleveland. Now, it wasn't the majority, but that clearly is just nowhere to be found. Even before we won it, I think things have just come way, way distant from that sort of belief system. And for many years, we know 52 years, but when we got here it was, I guess, 41 years. I guess that can do that to a city. Maybe sports shouldn't have the kind of impact on a city. It does, but it does. And I can feel it. And I'll tell you what, they asked me on the radio this morning, they said, would people be saying, like they are, that we're going to win this World Series with the Cleveland Indians. We're going to win it. Tribe's going to win it. People feel confident. Had we not won, would people be saying, we're just waiting for it to happen again? I think maybe that's true. I think winning begets winning, losing begets losing. And, Roger Bannister, in 1954 or something, he breaks the 4-minute mile, and then like 6 guys ran the 4-minute mile within like 3 months. I mean, that's not a coincidence, right? So there's definitely something to that in the momentum and the culture and the air and everything else.
Kind of an addendum to that, Adam, you probably know these stats, and I know you, Dan, but there was a survey taken in 2011 asking Clevelanders would they recommend their city as a destination place for visitors around the country. In 2011, only 34% of the respondents said yes, one of the lowest numbers in the country. Okay, go ahead to 2014 after LeBron announces he's coming back. The Republican National Convention decides on Cleveland. All of a sudden, 54% of respondents say, yes, I would recommend Cleveland. So now we're middle of the pack. This past summer, after the championship of the Monsters and the Cavaliers and the RNC here in town and the very successful stint, 75%, which now we're one of the highest in the country in terms of saying Cleveland is a place to be. So. So it just tells you the impact Larry has.
Well, they told me to hold this up. So if you don't like my answer, I just do it. Shall I leave it like this here?
And my daughter.
David Stern never had one of these. So, okay.
My daughter works for Fathead, so I'm sure she took great care.
You think your daughter?
She might be behind this.
She might be. Yeah. Molly is doing an unbelievable job.
Speaking of Fathead and all the other businesses that you have, Dan, and I want you to talk about this too, culture. I noticed it as soon as I walked through the door with the Cavaliers in 2006. Energy, common threads, but you live it every day, Dan, and so do your employees, and Adam too. Can you guys both speak to the importance of culture in your various businesses?
Let me just begin with the Cleveland Clinic, and what Toby has done here in terms of culture, and it's well known, and people writing case studies about the patient care here. And I mean, Dan was saying to Dr. Cosgrove before when we were backstage, just talking about the treatment that his employees gotten here and family members as others. And I think it's no different at the end of the day, for your businesses, whether it's a sports league, whether it's an arena. And I'll say, and Dan will talk about it, but I actually, Dan teaches a course on it, and I attended it a few years ago. It's a full-day seminar he gives in Detroit. But for me, whether you go into a hospital or whether I go into a hotel for that matter, an arena, I think for people in the business, at the moment you walk in, from that first point of contact, whether it's with a bellman, whether it's with somebody at the front desk, whether it's somebody at a reception desk, whether it's a ticket taker or an usher. And I think, we collectively spend a lot of time on the culture in our businesses and at the league. And I think it's different from market to market, just a different taste, different sensibilities, and maybe one way in Cleveland, there's an expectation of something else in LA or other markets. I think in some ways, that's what makes the NBA so special. There's that commonality of the 30 teams together, but it's a different experience from market to market. But it is something that we spend a lot of time on, and it's, in our case, call them fans as opposed to customers, and obviously you're in an arena for so many games, but we also recognize from the league office standpoint that back to my notion of a zero-sum game, there's going to be the same number of wins and losses every year, no matter how hard we try to create more wins. And therefore, we have to find a way where our fans/customers for teams who, 29 out of 30 who don't win championships, and half of those teams that don't even have winning records, how their fans, their season ticket holders will come away also having a positive experience. So it's central to what we do.
Yeah, I will say this, and I was talking to Toby before we came on here, and this is no BS, because I don't like to BS, and I think Toby said I'm like I'm in the top 5 of referring patients to the clinic, okay? But I pride myself on that, and I do because I kid you not, I'm not just saying this. There hasn't been a single one of them or their families that have not raved about the experience that they, most of them are from the Detroit area, frankly, drive the 2.5, 3 hours to get here. And you have something very special going on here because I know it's not easy in what you do, but I think it's driven by, and I assume it's driven by, your culture and everybody knowing who you are. We define culture as who you are, not what you do. And so we're in several businesses, a lot of different whats, but who we are doesn't change. And actually, I think we even brought our little booklets. You guys getting, is that right, Andrea, wherever you were? Yes.
Is it?
You got our booklets. Normally it's $12.99 plus shipping and handling, but today, today we're giving it, but it lists our, just sort of our 19 isms and who we are. And the reason that you have a culture, a lot of people have asked me over the years, why do you have a culture? What's a culture about? Well, if you really do have a culture, and by the way, you can't have, some people think that you can have a culture, a good culture, by not knowing your culture. That's impossible. By the laws of nature, if you don't know your culture, it's automatically bad. Like, can I use a swear word, Toby, here? One? Okay. So, like, basically, shit is the default setting. Like, I hate to say that, but that's what we have found out in the world. And so you can't, in other words, you can't just say by coincidence we have a great culture, and anybody that said that, you look deeper, there's something wrong there. But if you have a great culture, it drives decision-making, actions, and behavior, and it drives it, it's either in line with who you are or it's not. And if everybody knows who they are, then it becomes a heck of a lot easier for everybody to move forward. So, but I can't tell you how impressed I am with this culture here, because you can feel it from the second that you walk in anywhere. Not just the great patient care, but the overall feel. So,
One of my favorite isms in the book is the inches are all around us, and obviously LeBron James memorized the book because literally 2 inches separated his block of Andre Iguodala and being a good block versus a goaltending.
Yeah,
so
he attended the isms day one day. So
exactly. LeBron was paying attention as he always does. All right, Adam, the future of the NBA. 100 international players in the league, nearly a quarter last year. The game is so global, more than any other professional sports league. What do you see the future in terms of what's the next frontier for our league?
Incidentally, it was 100 international players, out of roughly 450 last year. And we made a big jump this year. We just announced opening day rosters. It's 113. It went from 100 to 113 just this season.
Do you include Canadians in that? Or?
Yeah, Canadian. Canadians count, but that's just 10 of the 113.
All right.
But
making sure.
This year's past draft, almost 50% of the top 60 picks, I think it's 24 out of 60, were born outside the United States as well. And so I think, just like with a lot of businesses, our opportunity to grow, while there's lots of room still left in the United States, it's growing internationally. And I just came back from China, where we played, for the 12th time, we played preseason games in China. We also played in Spain the week before with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We had 2 teams in China. And now what's really changed the world is digital and social media. We have, last year we were at 1 billion, now we have 1.2 billion people follow the NBA through some form of social media on a global basis. So more than 1 out of 7 people in the world are connecting in some way with the NBA. I think, LeBron James, alone, I was told, has more social media followers than all of Major League Baseball.
Really?
And I think it's something that our players lend themselves, I think in part because they are truly bigger than life. I mean, they are superheroes in terms of their physique, their size. They're fully visible in the court. They're not in dugouts. They're not under helmets, etc. And now, what's most fascinating to me is that when early on in my career at the NBA, I spent a lot of my time selling broadcast rights internationally. And then, for the most part, the games might have aired once in the middle of the night, and then maybe gotten re-aired the following day in prime time. And then the prime time market disappeared because through the internet, people, once they could get the scores, they weren't really interested in watching games 12 hours later, whatever else. And I wasn't really sure what would happen in the next phase of our business. And then smartphones and tablets came along and I think sooner than I ever thought, that in terms of the quality of the video. I mean, all people in this room remember it wasn't that long ago when video was buffering and it wasn't high quality and it really didn't look clear. I mean, now to the point where, I'm sure a lot of people like me, where you have beautiful television in your house and you sit and watch the game on your phone because you're too lazy to reach for the remote. And that's how good.
Plus the remotes don't work.
Plus the remotes don't work as well. And so now, in essence, where everyone in the world is carrying a television in their pocket. That's how I think of it. And China, for example, which is a huge market for us, are games where they're 12-hour time difference from the East Coast. So during morning commute time, people can watch games there. And so we have tens of millions of people following the NBA in the mornings. There's a media company called Tencent in China that's going to stream 600 NBA games this season. And people are, and so what's changing, I think, for example, Cavs fans, of course you have the fans in Northeast Ohio, but even a large portion of those fans will never get to step foot in Quicken Loans Arena. I mean, because there's, putting even aside price, there's just not enough seats and for all those fans. But now what we're seeing is fans outside the United States who will never ever probably be in the United States, let alone be in an arena, through virtual reality, through high quality video, through all kinds of new technology, can experience the game in a way they never could have before. And I think so. For the next step for us is we're very focused on technological innovation. It's probably not that different than running a healthcare institute in many ways. It's sort of how's remote care changing, and for us, it's creating. We talk about, and you're fortunate. You the two of you have the best seat in all of sports, that courtside ticket, which people say, even if you're fans of baseball, football, everything else, people seem to acknowledge that sitting courtside in an NBA game is one of the great seats in all of sports. And then the question is, through technology and maybe through virtual reality, can we replicate that seat for literally hundreds of millions of people around the world? So that's what I'm very focused on.
Virtual reality. Well, first of all, you think this internet thing's going to catch on then. But this virtual reality, you laugh, Fred. This is our first time.
Because I heard you say it before, but it still makes me laugh.
But I was Fred's intern, by the way, in the early 80s. I was Fred's intern at Channel 2 in Detroit, I swear to you. Is that true?
Yeah, and guess what?
Yep.
He says it. I don't believe. He says I demoted in a weekend.
You did.
Well, why did I?
It's a fact.
What was I thinking?
No, it's an absolute fact. I screwed up cutting the highlights so many times. You absolutely went nuts and put me on Saturday and Sunday.
But listen, I did notice one thing. I knew he was way too smart to be a sportscaster.
Oh, no.
So, I was right. So,
but virtual reality, and I just we have investments in 2 or 3 of these companies, emerging companies, and I have to tell you something. I don't know how many people here have never put the newest virtual reality goggles on, but we had in our office the other day, somebody had it's a little bigger than a 2x4, but a piece of wood, and so it was like a plank. And guy goes, stand on this. I go, okay, I stand, and he puts the goggles on me. So now I'm on a plank in like the 90th floor of like New York City, coming out the window. And I swear to you, I wouldn't, he'd just jump. I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. And like 9 out of 10 people, you think you're going to do it, you will not. It's that real and that good. And when you think about the limitation of an arena has always been whatever it is, 20,000 seats, let's say, in basketball, and there's nothing more to do or sell when it comes to that. You literally can now sell season tickets at courtside all over the world, real time. And it's just, I don't want to say it's just as 100% as good because you're not physically there, but it's a pretty good close second. It's shocking. I think it's going to change the world. I really do.
But it's amazing. I get so many tweets from around the world, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Australia is the second largest League Pass subscription country in the world, correct?
Just by number, just by percentage of population, but China far exceeds it now.
Right,
yeah.
which makes sense.
Brazil is?
Australia.
Australia, I'm sorry.
But there's
it's pound for pound. Australia, I think roughly 23 million people or so. We have 10 Australian players now.
Yeah, right. All those Dellavedova fans is the big.
It's true.
Yeah. But I heard
they're now in Milwaukee.
No, I really heard. Some guy came up to me over the summer, and I forgot where I was, and he was from Australia, and he was from like 20 miles out of where Dellavedova is from. And he started telling me like the guy is like bigger than any rock star you can possibly imagine in the United States, like Eminem or this guy. He goes, no, way bigger. And I kept naming people. Now I got to Fred McLeod. He said, bigger than Fred. But it's phenomenal.
But one other point, there's a young man from Denmark. You didn't figure Cavalier fans are Denmark. He constantly sends me videos. I mean, these videos look like they're Hollywood productions. So it's such a small globe, and following our game, it's incredible. It's humbling, is what it is.
No question.
All right, health and wellness for the league. Pretty important in your eyes, and I know, Dan, in your relationship with the clinic, it is obviously huge too.
Yeah. Are we going in order with you?
You go first.
Want me to go first? Okay. All right. So God, by the way, Adam's just killing it as commissioner, I have to tell you.
Yep.
Coach, you're doing great. He is. Yep. So, I can talk to you. It's great, man. Okay, so you have to think about that. All right, now, what were we talking about? We're talking about.
Can I just, not to embarrass Adam.
No, he's the best. He really is.
After what happened with the LA Clippers a couple of years ago.
It's like his 7th day on the job, right?
Right.
Like
So my wife says, send Adam an email that he did a phenomenal job. I said, Beth, he's not gonna respond. He's Adam Silver. He's got so many. So I sent him an email. Within a half hour, he responds, says, "Thank you very much. That means a lot." So, to be approachable like that, I think it's big for all of us because we all feel like we're invested in the product. So that means a lot.
So I still did forget the question again. Oh, health and wellness.
Health and wellness.
Health and wellness. So, I mean, Cleveland Clinic's been our partner well before we had the team, probably even before Gordon had the team, or I'm not sure, but for decades. And it's a very important partner of us. And having your name on the practice facility, I hear that we're negotiating some other deal or something that's even more exciting. And I think, look, players are examples of health and wellness for society in general, right? They're athletes in great shape. Especially NBA athletes are probably in the best physical condition of almost any athlete. And that's always been a big thing. It's a big thing in society. Is weight gain and all that other stuff becomes something that is more and more significant every day that we have to overcome. And I think NBA is trying to lead in a lot of places there.
Yeah, no, just to echo what Dan said, beginning with our athletes, with our players, I think we've had a real push in the last few years to have a better understanding of how to prolong their careers and keep them on the court. And I think part of it's been on travel, I mean, as you know, and reduction in back-to-backs in 4 out of 5 games. We've almost completely eliminated the 4 out of 5 games, and we've dramatically reduced the number of back-to-backs. And it's interesting, the correlation, people often talk about the length of our season and whether our season is too long or not. From a fan standpoint, in terms of our players, it's interesting when you chart injuries, there's no more injuries towards the latter part of the season or even in the playoffs than there are earlier in the season. Where the correlation comes is through fatigue. And when players are playing back-to-back or 4 out of 5 nights and aren't getting appropriate sleep. And it's interesting what our teams have become so much more sophisticated about. The relationships they're entering into with local healthcare providers or institutions, like the opportunity that they have here, I think. And then more broadly, as Dan was saying, that especially internationally, these players become exemplars of fitness for nations around the world. And I think part of the appeal, for example, for us in China, for example, and our relationship with the government is, even though it's a much poorer country, they're also dealing with childhood diabetes, childhood obesity, and kids aren't physically active. And so through programs
probably because too much virtual reality.
Well, but through programs like Junior NBA, where we have partnerships where bringing basketball into schools, and nothing to do with elite players, just getting the masses of kids to where gym class isn't part of their education system. And the great thing about basketball is that increasingly as populations are becoming denser and more urban, of course it doesn't take a lot of space. It's incredibly difficult to master, but it's easy. It's a game that's easy to understand. Very little equipment, non-violent, non-contact. Boys and girls can play it. So India, same reaction. Throughout Africa, and I think that's why, on a global basis, you really see, soccer and basketball as the 2 biggest sports by far. I don't think it's an accident that it's round balls, one you kick, one you bounce, obviously, but easy to understand, easy to play.
I have to say too, Dr. Parker and his staff. I mean, look at last year. I mean, last year we have come so much further as far as injuries were. I mean, the year before, we were missing 2 players. Actually 3, 60% of our starters. I mean, we would probably like to have those, but last year they kept everybody in fantastic health, and there's no big issues, and that's the difference between winning and losing. So, guys, I mean, he was like batteries included when we bought the franchise, and Dr. Parker, he's been here, keeps getting better every single year, as well as the staff, and again, another tribute to the clinic that keeps us. And great. And I don't know if do you guys ever chart in the league teams that have more injuries than others?
Absolutely.
Kinds of injuries. Absolutely. How are we doing on that? Are we,
But you won.
Okay.
You guys are doing something right.
That's good.
No, but we do. We chart it, and it's something where it's sort of our version of big data. We become much more sophisticated. I mean, part of it is in terms of healthcare that this is to say this to Dan, we're trying to work with our teams to become less competitive when it comes to the care of their players rather than looking to have a competitive advantage there, because there's a fair amount of mobility of the players around the league too. So even though there may be a player who's not playing for him now, he could end up on his team 10 years later. So you don't want teams to be competing based on keeping players on the floor in healthcare. And I think increasingly teams have been open to best practices when it comes to the care and treatment of their players and injury prevention as well.
I got to tell you too, the players are getting smarter and smarter every single year. And these free agents, they look at that. They know about all this, and they know what teams are known for, having great medical staffs and trainers, and because they're getting smart about their career. And look at with what they're getting paid today, an extra year or two in their career. I mean, it make a huge difference in their lifetime and their economic well-being and everything else. And so, it's just becoming more and more of a thing out there.
No question.
And what's cool from where I sit, John Wall had surgery, Washington Wizards, surgery on both knees. Where does he come? Cleveland Clinic. I think 3 years ago we had 4 players in the NBA who had, heart issues, came here to the clinic, including Jeff Green, who was told at one point he might not be able to continue his career, and taps his chest twice before every ball game and he has phenomenal memories of coming here. So, also one other point I want to touch upon: practice facilities. In our case, the Cleveland Clinic courts. A Taj Mahal built in 2007 in Independence. Unbelievable. Every time I walk in there, I go, boy, I am a lucky man to walk into this. And now other teams have followed suit.
It's a bit of an arms race in the league, but it was inevitable. I mean, I think that our owners have made enormous additional investments in the league, and part of it's come through new arenas and also practice facilities. But partly it's become a recruitment issue, but also as the teams have caught up, as I travel around the league, it's quite incredible. And generally the relationship is with a local healthcare provider. It's first-class care. I think that as Dan said, for our players, it's an expectation now. And if you have a cap system like we do, where there's a maximum player salary and then an overall cap, you're not really competing economically anymore. You're competing for opportunity. And so they compete in terms of, here's where your career's going to last longer, and we have better health care, and you have a better chance of winning a championship here, which by the way, I think in terms of for a market like Cleveland, in terms of a smaller market, sort of in the range of markets in the league, it levens sort of the competition in that, and I think in a very positive way. And so that there's no, we want a 30-team league where every team is competing based on management rather than competing on who will spend more or which has more, off-court opportunities for players. And I think, as Dan has said, the players have gotten a lot more sophisticated. And I think no better example than LeBron coming from Miami to Cleveland.
I mean, it's sort of a fallacy. There's really only been a short period, when LeBron went to college in Miami for those 4 years. And then, and by the way, I might as well come clean. We actually, the whole thing was rigged. I mean, we figured we can't get any good picks. He wanted to go to college, I wrote that letter thing. It's all, So we don't care now, dude. All right, but it's Q&A time. Okay, we can move on. Okay, I'm not going to keep going. I'm kidding, by the way. Sorry.
All right, we'd like to get to a little Q&A here in part of the program. We got have some big heads. For those who do ask a question, we've got big heads of LeBron, K-Love, J.R. Smith, Shump, Kyrie, Tristan, and the trophy as well. We got some real big heads, including Kyrie in the shot, LeBron the block, and the Quicken Loans Arena mural as well. So
actually, I have to just promote one thing, and only because I think you love it, and it gets underplayed a lot. But Fathead has these. Now, they do some things good and some things they need a lot of work on. Fathead, frankly, and it's our company, but they're moving in the right direction. But we have these murals that we put up in our offices of the shot and the block and the stop. And they're the most, for Christmas or whatever. I mean, you put these things on the wall. Let me tell you something. You guys who hate shopping, man, just go to the website. You're done. Okay.
How much are they with shipping and handling?
Yeah, it's a discount for the clinic employees. Somehow. They really are. No BS. Again, they really are unreal. Go check them out. And by the way, the website doesn't give it justice. So, maybe I'll take a video tomorrow and then tweet it out or something. So.
All right, first question. Go ahead. Identify yourself if you can.
My name's Bryant. I have a question for Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Silver. Mr. Gilbert, you've mentioned in the past that you want Detroit to become a capital for fintech startups. Any opportunity or plans to bring fintech and blockchain-enabled technologies to Cleveland alongside some of the healthcare startups?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, just so you know, my partners and myself, our adult lives now are dedicated to downtown Cleveland and downtown Detroit, period. And everything we do, we've got something like 30,000 employees, and like 20,000 of them are in either Ohio or downtown Detroit, if not more than that. And we just actually moved, speaking of fintech in downtown Cleveland, Quicken Loans office, which just had its 10th anniversary. We moved 550 people from the location we were at into the Higbee building that we purchased. And it's all, if you want to say fintech, financial technology. And there's a lot of guys that are coming up with sort of startup ideas and things, and we don't have any other specific plans on the table, but we are always open through our venture investing to fintech, whether it's Cleveland or Detroit. And I do think that both these cities, by the way, we just have a bright future in the Midwest and these cities for so many reasons. I could talk for just hours on that up here, but there's a lot of things. The perfect storm, right? This is like the perfect sunny day in my view, as far as economically goes for downtown Cleveland and downtown Detroit. And we're sort of like Lake Erie cousins, across the lake, but a little bit different, a little bit the same, depending on the day. But there's just opportunity. What is really common is the opportunity is immense. So if you have any ideas or anything, just give me a call or email.
All right. Next question. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that. Again, Gordon is here, that when, Gordon made that decision, and it was the beginning of a wave to move arenas back from the suburbs to downtown in urban environments, and he saw the impact it's had here in Cleveland. And Dan knows he's also involved in Detroit. No announcement to make today, but I know Dan's been part of discussions with the owner of the Pistons about potentially moving that team back downtown as well. And you can just see the impact. It's
public. There's been news. So the Pistons are the only NBA team out of 30 teams that is not in the urban core now that Sacramento opened up their arena. Where it belongs. A basketball team and sports teams for the most part. Football's a little different. You have 8 Sundays, and it's not even during the week, and you can argue both ways, but the other teams, that's where they belong. And so the Red Wings are in the middle of building a brand new arena in downtown Detroit. It'll be ready in September, and the Pistons are in negotiations, and the word is that they're this close to being downtown. So.
All right, next question.
Hi, this question is for Dan. Dan, since LeBron has entered the league at a young age and left, came back, can you explain the emotion that you felt throughout that time?
So, that was better when he came back than when he left. So let's get that out of the way. It's just kind of become a thing in my life. Now that's my burden I'm going to carry, because in a way it's a burden, but in a way it's just been a sort of a great ending here of how it all happened. But so we had the team for 5 years. LeBron was with Gordon for the first 2 years of his 7 years here, and the second 5. Our relationship between him and his people that are his agents and the marketing folks and his mother and everybody and us, we never had there wasn't even a bump in the road until that very last, night, I guess. And so, there's a little bit of a misconception that there was issues before that. There was nothing before that. In fact, I took him to a business conference that Toby goes to. You were there, and your wife, and for 5 days the summer before, in the middle of Idaho, and he brought his kids, and so it just, unfortunately, it ended how it ended. But our gut was. But more other people than myself, I just, for some reason, didn't have as much a gut as people did around, that he really did want to come home, even after or during the first year that he was in his freshman year, I guess, at college. Since he came back, when I went down to Miami and saw him as a free agent in the summer of 2014, I met with him for probably 3.5 hours. Literally 15 minutes we talked about what happened I apologized for what I did. He apologized. The whole thing was, that was the end of it. We started talking about what this team could be in the future. So, I mean, he's really, he's something. He's a smart guy. And by the way, his level of awareness, if you know, and that's one of our isms, by the way, always raising our level of awareness. But this guy knows when a relative or kid or somebody of mine's not at the game. He said, where were they? I go, what are you talking about? You're playing the game. How do you know what's going on? He knows what's going on with everything. He's as smart as they come, and forgetting basketball, not just on the court, but everywhere. And he's, you know, for Cleveland in the future, I think he's here, Cleveland and Akron, and he's going to be a big part of his community for decades, I think.
As an example, that I asked LeBron a couple of years ago, actually last season, how long it takes him to learn to play. He says, once, I got it. I said, okay, all right, then how about all 5 spots on the floor? He says, 2-3 times. And I believe it. The guy he says, I can't help it, I got a computer up here, and I believe it, because he's the smartest athlete I've ever been around.
The Isaiah Thomas, the original Isaiah Thomas, you know, not the one now, okay? Not 2.0, okay? Right. So he told me, and I got to know him over the years, he said, you've just draft the smartest, give him like some kind of test, Mensa or whatever, to draft the smartest player. I don't care about it. You know, obviously you have to have athletic skill, but the smart, he goes, you know, it's all about that. And it's not all about that, but you know, you have to have, just like you do to work here. I mean, you have to be smart, I think, to be a great player in the NBA. I think you can play as an athlete if you're a great athlete and you have the size, but to really be a great player, I mean, you have to be pretty smart.
Even to be an intern, right?
Well, not when I was an intern, there was no smart. You know.
All right, next question.
Hi, my name is Kelly, and thank you for your time this afternoon. And I have a pretty lighthearted question. I would like to know why NBA logos are not on duct tape.
What was that?
On what? On duct tape? Duct tape, you guys?
Yeah, duct tape, you know, in Avon, the duct tape festivals every Father's Day weekend.
They will be now. I didn't know it was an option. We're on it.
Yeah, so you're saying is your long duct tape. Duct tape is big. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I have duct tape.
Do you have duct tape?
Very handy.
No, I really did. No, I did. It is. No, hold on. I did see on you're online. There's a lot of things you can order on duct tape now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm,
no, I saw it myself. It's true. Now, Fathead is not selling duct tape, but maybe we should.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you very much.
So this is really
it's only my 7th duct tape question in the last year. For the record.
All right, next question.
Hello, my name is Mina. First to Dan Gilbert, thank you for Birdman. He came a week after my birthday, and I like to consider that a gift.
Do you want to talk about staplers or what?
No? Actually, my question is for the commissioner. In my unit, I work in the surgical intensive care unit. We focus on what are our strengths, what can we keep doing right, and then what are areas we can improve on. So your opinion of Cleveland, both as a franchise and fans, what do you think is something that we're doing well that other organizations can learn from, and where's an area we can grow?
Well, I'll begin by saying that call it the fan experience or the customer experience at the Q. I mean, I think it's fantastic for those who've had the opportunity to go to games there. And even when they weren't winning, it's always entertaining. I think they really care about every fan who's in the building. You can tell from the training of the ushers, and I was saying before, the ticket takers and everyone else. I mean, it's a wonderful experience, everything from, and the way the food is served and everything else. So I definitely think that's something and in the NBA, we have a group, we call it the Team Boat, Team Marketing Business Operations, and a group of NBA employees, and what they do is they in essence travel from team to team, arena to arena, and they take the best practices. Let's say they're doing something great in Cleveland, and then they'll introduce it to the other 29 teams in the league. And then, you know, and again, things differ culturally from market to market, but they share those best practices. And, you know, I don't know, in terms of what else they could do, one of my sisters lives in Shaker Heights, so I love this community. I'm here a lot. I mean, winning, what somebody said to me earlier today, that the seal has been broken, you know, in essence. Yeah. You know, and I think that winning begets winning. And you know, Dan was saying this earlier, you know, if the Cavs hadn't won, would the Indians be winning? And you know, who knows? But you can see it just in the same way I would say the Cleveland Clinic is run. I mean, that it's part of culture, it's part of, and I see it the same in the NBA, that if you can create a winning attitude among people, that you can create an optimistic feeling, a sense. And again, even I said earlier, coming back from the 3-1 deficit, I think sports translates into other aspects of people's lives. And I've sat there as a fan too, thinking, you see an athlete do something, and whether it's something you go back and something that you're trying to accomplish, some milestone, it's really true. You go and it gives you that extra bit of swagger and think, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. And so, I think that, as you were saying earlier, Fred, the polls in terms of the popularity of Cleveland, it frustrates me sometimes when I hear economists talking about the economic impact of teams on cities, because those intangibles are very difficult to measure economically. And I'm not to say that cities, they're partnerships with NBA owners, and I think they've worked out well, but I think those intangibles are so meaningful. And even I think given what Dr. Cosgrove and what the Cleveland Clinic is doing around the world, I think the Cavaliers precedes them when they're going into the Middle East, when they're down in Phoenix or Florida and other areas of the country, that it's all part of the branding of the city. And so I think you'll see that the success that the team is having, that the Indians are having, will have a direct impact on just how people feel about living here and the other businesses.
And by the way, I just truly believe in my heart the Indians are going to win this World Series. I just believe it. Who cares what I feel about the Indians? But my point is, and I'm just, everyone you talk to, it's a different feeling, right? Everyone was scared, scared in the other, when you get to the finals in any Cleveland sport, but now people, you just can feel it.
Well, it's been 28 years since the same city has had an NBA title, and then that fall, a World Series title, so we're in...
Fred doing his homework again. Always doing
a lot of the stuff I'm going to use in the broadcast on Friday night on Fox Sports.
And the truth of the matter is, one of the reasons we hired Fred, was it 9 or 10 years ago? Because Fred does the work. If you notice every broadcast, Fred's got numbers and stats and things and connections. Guy does the work. So,
but I love to tell stories, and our league, Adam, as you know, is filled with wonderful stories, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it every night. Okay, next question.
My name's John. First of all, Mr. Gilbert, thank you very much for everything you've done in changing the culture of the city, because you invested in it, you put your money where your mouth was, and I, for one, am greatly appreciative of that fact.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Commissioner Silver, you have a very progressive attitude towards race relations and how the NBA, their stance and what you're doing, with all of the anthem protests and everything that are taking place, but you have a very progressive stance, and I think it should be applauded. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'll just say I feel like I inherited it in terms of the NBA culture, and again, just look back to Gordon Gunn, and Fred's been involved with the league for a long time, and Dan now has for a significant amount of time, and I think Dan can attest to this. When we sit around and talk behind closed doors at our owners' meetings, I think even people park even their personal politics in certain cases, and I think there's a recognition of the impact that this league can have. The fact is, our league, 75% or so of our players are African American. They are some of the most prominent African Americans in the world. I think so much credit goes to our players. I think in terms of what's happening, the positive things that have been happening in the league, it's a true partnership with our players. There's even the way money is divvied up in our league. It's roughly half of the money off the top goes to our players. They have a strong voice in everything we do. And, so I feel like the progressive brand of this league is part and parcel of who we are. And we don't necessarily go looking for controversy, and sometimes it finds us. But I think it's fair to measure us on how we respond to those controversies. And again, so much credit to Dan and the other owners, because they're ultimately guiding me. And I think that, and again, many of our owners' personal politics sort of are very different when they're outside of the room. But I think when it comes to the NBA and to the core values of this league, that we're all together.
Well, the NBA is, I think the word's microcosm. I went to Michigan State, so I'm not sure on these big words, but, I think it's a great microcosm of, if you were to say how should society, everyone's got a different view, of course, but how should it be? Well, in the NBA, there's no such thing as, really black, white, any of that stuff, or management even in a way with union. It's really, there is a union and there is management, but it's more like you said, it's more like a partnership. And, people care about the overall, the wellness and the well-being of the entity, the league, the brand. And I got to tell you, I think even in the 11 short years we've been around, everything's gotten better. I mean, the players know more and more professional. Very few. How often is there the kinds of things you used to hear about 15 years ago?
Hardly ever.
You don't even hear about that. The owners aren't as overall, at least publicly, as crazy as maybe some were at one time. Any real serious issues, you sell their team for them or something. $2 billion consolation prize or whatever it is. But no, the point is that it really truly is. It's a perfect, not perfect, but it's a more sunny, it's just optimism. And I think that once people start trusting, the whole word rather is trust. I mean, you have I think a high trust level among the owners to the league itself and Adam and his folks, as well as the players and the owners and the players in the league. I mean, I think everybody pretty much trusts each other, that we're all out in this together. You may have disputes daily, but it's more like friendly fire, right? It's not a trust thing. So I think
it truly is like a family. I think in the way that family members can disagree.
I can't tell you how many of my colleagues around the NBA, as we had the summer broadcast meetings, all came up to me and said, we're really happy for you guys for Cleveland. If we couldn't win it, we're happy for you, and it's just a good feel. We were coming off the highest NBA TV ratings for ABC ever in the finals, and in the highest viewed Game 7, which had us all at the edge of our seats. By the way, one other note, we do have for auction later a LeBron jersey and a Tristan Thompson signed jersey. All right, final question, if we can.
Hi, my name is Tracy. I'm a nurse here at the Cleveland Clinic. Except I'm not going to ask you my simple question. I'm going to ask you my son's question. I don't really know what this means. He was supposed to be here. With the new CBA being close to done, what role has Chris Paul played as the new president of the NBA Players Association? And is there anything specific he's done that maybe wasn't done by previous people in his position?
First of all, how old is your son?
He's just about to graduate from college, 22.
Oh, okay. Because there are, believe it or not, there are some. I get emails from 11-year-olds. I swear to you. No, I'm not kidding. They know more about the collective bargaining agreement, and that's what he's talking about, than Adam or I know. I mean,
no question.
I mean, Dan, didn't you know that there was an exception to that? And by the way, you should have given a non-guaranteed money later in the contract. Anyway, so at least he's 22, so that's good. But I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, well, I'll just say. So I actually, with Dan, we have a labor relations committee of 6 owners, and Dan is a member of that committee. And Chris Paul, all-star player, member of the Los Angeles Clippers, is the president of the Players Association, elected by his fellow players. And so he serves as the head of their executive committee. So that's the equivalent of our owners committee when we meet. And so much credit goes to Chris. As you said, we're close to getting a collective bargaining agreement done. And I'd say, as Dan said, everyone's gotten increasingly sophisticated over my time in the league. And now I think that the players, granted, they are, as a standalone basis, they have an enormous value. They have big business deals. And I think they are sophisticated business people. And so as someone like Chris, as a leader sitting across from us, and I'm not sure how many other sports leagues do this, but we share all our financial information when we're negotiating. So we're saying to the player, here are the audited financials from all 30 teams, from the league office. I mean, of course, the players themselves aren't necessarily going through them. They hire sophisticated economic advisors, but they're going, but he leading that negotiating team together with Michelle Roberts, the head of the union, sort of approached it in a business-like manner. And as Dan said, I think there was a high degree of trust in building relationships across the table. So I give tremendous credit to Chris. And LeBron was part of that committee as well. James Jones on the Cavaliers.
If I could say something, James Jones, y'all know who James Jones is, right? This guy knows more, this is true, more about financial statements than pretty much any businessman I know.
I actually think he was an accounting major in college.
He must be. The guy starts talking about, double depreciation, amortization, and I'm like, what do you, I don't know what he's say. He's one of the smartest guys in the league.
But the answer to your son's question is, Chris has made, he's made a huge impact, and I think he's so representative of of today's player who is, and understands business and understands that if we can run a good business, that in turn owners are going to build great practice facilities and invest in their arenas and build this business overall.
Well, thanks very much. And let's go beat the Cubs. Let's raise a banner. And as LeBron said on June 19th, Cleveland Clinic, this is for you.
Hey, can I say one? Toby? I just noticed, is that on the screen yet, who's coming up for the next? So Duck is even in the name of people, like Angela Duckworth, Duct Tape. That's a big thing around here.
It is. We're all about ducks. Listen, I want to thank the three of you. There's a rumor that they have another event going on. I don't know what it could be. But we're going to excuse you guys now, and thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Adam, thank you. Thanks, man. Thanks, Dan. I want to just remind you all, before you go, that our next two ideas for tomorrow will be on November 21st from Fred Smith, who is the CEO of Federal. You can leave this. who is the CEO of Federal Express is going to be here, and Angela Duckworth is going to be here on December 21st. So I hope we'll see you back then. Go Cavs, go Indians.